This is IGN. Only 2 films released this year received a perfect score from our critics. These are the best reviewed movies of 2025. Welcome to an IGN Daily Update special. The highest scores on IGN's review scale are 9 for Amazing and 10 for Masterpiece. This year, only 16 films received the highest marks from IGN's roster of critics, and of those, only 2 films received a perfect score of 10. Horror movies were particularly well received by our reviewers, as were indie films, but the most obvious through line with all of these picks is that they were films made by great directors such as Paul Thomas Anderson, Spike Lee, Guillermo del Toro, Ryan Coogler, and Kelly Reichardt, just to name a few. Surprise, great directors usually make great movies. Here are IGN's best reviewed movies of 2025, starting with some of the films with a score of 9. Let's start with the monster films. From one of the most iconic creatures in cinematic history to blues-loving vampires and a new breed of the infected, this was a big year for monster movies. And by monsters, we mean humans. There are no xenomorphs or killer sharks to be found on this list. Guillermo del Toro finally realized his decades-long ambition to adapt Frankenstein, which IGN's Scott Kalura called a crowning achievement for the beloved genre director and one of the most effective adaptations of the Mary Shelley story ever put to film. In his review, Kalura hails del Toro for going for a tale of tragedy, romance, and redemption rather than a straight horror flick, which isn't to say that there isn't plenty of gore or creepy moments, but that's the trimmings of this film, as blood-red as they are. No, del Toro's really interested in, to paraphrase The Creature, why violence so often feels inevitable and what it takes to stop it. Ryan Coogler also found the humanity in the monsters of his film Sinners, with Eric Goldman writing in his review, "They're sufficiently creepy and bloodthirsty, but Coogler also leans hard into the idea that vampires, in many cases, are depicted as seductive sexual creatures, and there's an allure to joining their undead ranks." Across the pond, director Danny Boyle and screenwriter Alex Garland revisited post-apocalyptic Britain 28 years later. The movie introduced the Alpha, a subspecies of the infected who procreate and run around buck naked and buck wild. They're returning for the upcoming sequel 28 Days Later, The Bone Temple. These crazy, ripped, nigh-invincible hulks immediately ratchet up the tension anytime they're on screen, with finishers that would make even Sub-Zero exclaim, "Flawless victory," in satisfied wonder, Tom Jorgensen wrote in his review. But as is often the case in zombie fiction here, let me just lean in and whisper real quick. Maybe we're the real monsters. In the film, generations of young Brits have had to grow up too quickly and have only ever known life with the rage virus. The way Holy Island citizens are lionizing Spike's ascension to the hunter role, good-natured though it is, has a haunting violence begets violence quality to it, underlined by the montages of child soldiers and the war poetry of Rudyard Kipling peppered into the edit, according to Jorgensen. When it came to the kid movies, Pixar Animation once had the Midas touch at the box office, but in the wake of flops like The Good Dinosaur and Lightyear, they're no longer a sure thing commercially. That's too bad, because we found their most recent film, Alio, about a boy who wants to venture into outer space to live with aliens, to be an audience pleaser despite its dismal box office performance. Over to the indie films, 2 of the biggest names in 90s and aughts indie cinema had new films out this year. Kelly Reichardt was back with The Mastermind, which our critic Chase Hutchinson noted in his review features career best work from Josh O'Connor and cements Reichardt's place as one of the best filmmakers working today, cutting deeply into both character and country to make a great new American heist film. Indie distributor A24 released many notable films this year, many of which were well received, but IGN score-wise fell short of meeting this article's threshold of a 9 or above. Among the A24 films that didn't make the cut were Civil War, Eternity, Eddington, Bring Her Back, Neja 2, Friendship, Opus, The Smashing Machine, and The Legend of Ochi. However, Josh Safdie's table tennis dramedy Marty Supreme, featuring a stellar lead performance by Timothée Chalamet, earned a 9 from IGN's Michael Calabro. In his review, Calabro forecast that Marty Supreme and Uncut Gems will spawn many of their own Goodfellas casino debates in the future. It doesn't matter what side you take, we're insanely lucky all these films exist. Okay, so films that earn a score of 10 are labeled by IGN as masterpieces, which our review scale explainer describes as classics in the making. But what does that actually mean? IGN's Michael Calabro wrestled with that very question in his review of our first film with a 10 out of 10 IGN score in 2025, One Battle After Another. In delivering his score, Calabro ultimately concluded that the elements that separate an amazing film from a masterpiece are minor. There are so many little details, seemingly inconsequential touches, the filmmaker's style, if you will, that all add up bit by bit to turn this amazing movie into a masterpiece. But Paul Thomas Anderson's politically charged and darkly funny saga of revolutionaries and fascists wasn't the only film to receive a perfect score from us in 2025. The other film we awarded a perfect score of 10 was also our highest rated A24 film of the year, and that film was Sorry Baby. Ava Victor made a stunning directorial debut with Sorry Baby. Carlos Aguiar called it a bittersweet, unassuming stunner, writing in IGN's review that Sorry Baby pulls off astounding feats of storytelling. It's not only because it jumps across multiple time periods with powerful impact, but also because it addresses a challenging topic like the trauma of sexual assault with nuance, restraint, and even effective and consistent humor. Writer-director-star Ava Victor has made a movie that's at once approachable, incredibly perceptive, and subtly stirring. All right, so what are your picks for the best movies of 2025? Let us know at IGN.com. Vote in our poll, and be sure to check out our various other Best of Awards for 2025 across film, TV, gaming, and comics. Happy New Year!
SpokenLayer.